If you don't feel you're worthy to attract something at this level, you need to raise your game to that level and you will attract it. Now, raising your game doesn't mean, you're a completely different person, but it might be, if you want to attract someone with good family values, you got to demonstrate that you have good family values.
Hello, and welcome to the Love Launch podcast. This is Joey Chandler. This is where I talk to experts and everyday people about what love means to them and how we all can have more of it in our world. Today, I'm talking with a gentleman who's not only he's an entrepreneur, author, a coach, all sorts of things. But that's common these days. Lots of people are that. But he said, I met my wife while traveling around the world for 6 months. And I said, you got to come on and talk about love and how that works out because something worked for him and I got to hear the story. So Gavin, Sequeira, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for joining me from around the world in Australia and welcome to the Love Launch podcast.
Hey, thanks, Joey. It's my absolute pleasure to be here. And I am halfway around the world. In fact, I'm on the other side of the planet right now. So I'm coming to you from South Australia, and I hear you're in San Francisco. So we're like opposite ends of the globe. But I'll tell you what, love exists everywhere around this planet. And I'm just happy to share my story.
Oh, great. Well, first, give us, actually, I'd love to hear what is your definition of love. We'll get some details about you first, but the people here, they want to know, we always talk about love. So what does love mean to you?
Look, love in its most basic form is being in the place where you feel joy and fulfillment and, complete. So if it's with people around you, they compliment you, they make you feel good. They give you a spring in your step. You feel wanted, you feel needed, you feel like you're a part of their world as well, right? They're a part of your world, you're a part of their world. To me, that's love because it's inclusion. It's all of that. So when you don't have that, you are lonely, you're in despair, you're sad, you're isolated, you've got all these emotions that are going through where because you haven't got that support around you. And love really is having support, not just from people, but it could be from the environment. It could be from your work. It could be from what you do for a living. If you enjoy and you love what you do, that can fulfill you, that can energize you. So for me, love is a combination of all of those things.
Wow, that's great. What I heard you saying the most was it was about joy and fulfillment and support and kind of that combination of everything together so that you could feel joy and you could feel supported and fulfilled.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Okay. That's great. That's great. And how does that show up in your work? Well, again, we'll get to your love story here in a second, but tell us a little bit about your work, the things that you do, and how does that sense of joy and fulfillment and support weave its way through what you do for people?
Okay. So I need to kind of go a little bit into a backstory to tell you how I've sort of arrived at this point right now in my life, because I didn't just wake up one day and everything was blissful, right? If any of your fans or your listeners have read Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, see, I'm an entrepreneur, so I kind of like these types of books, but they also, they teach you life lessons and values. And for me, I didn't really know what my values were. I didn't know what really made me happy. I kind of assumed from just growing up that, I had to do the right thing, please my parents, kind of get good grades at school, just be a good citizen of the world. But I didn't really know what would be the ideal job, what would be the ideal career, what would make an ideal partner for me. If I were to get married, what would that person look like? If, I were to have a group of friends, what would they need to be like to make me feel fulfilled? I guess you don't think of these things. You just kind of fall into it all, right? So I fell into a career out of university. I got into a couple of tech companies and worked for about 12 years in corporate. And Joey, I got burnt out. I got burnt out by a lot of things, not just the work, but the politics. I think the environment was toxic where I worked. There were just a lot of elements that I started to see through it. So suddenly the income that I was getting, which was very good at the time, I had a great job. It suddenly didn't cut the mustard anymore. I was like, what am I doing here? I don't want to be doing this for the next 5 or 10 or 20 years. And I looked at the people above me and I said, I don't want to be that guy or that lady because they don't see their kids anymore. They don't spend time with their families anymore. They've been divorced 3 times. They've had triple bypass surgeries and all of that. And this is not what life's meant to be about. And I started watching things like The Secret and learning about the law of attraction and how do you bring things into your life that really give you joy and fulfillment. And man, I went on this spiritual journey, if you like. I'm not a very strict anything. I was born and bred a Catholic, but I'm more of a spiritual person these days. And I really believe you attract things into your life with intent and with purpose. And so I do things like a vision board these days, or, I have been for the last 10 years, but I put on there what I want to attract into my life, whether it's career, whether it's my health, whether it's friends, travel, all the things that bring me any kind of joy or fulfillment, as you said. So I put it out there and then I don't just pray for it. I kind of work for it, if that makes sense. I try to make it happen. And so that's my recipe for how to bring joy and fulfillment into your life. And therefore I get love.
Absolutely. I think it's brilliant.
Yeah.
We talk a lot about on the show is the need for uh, creating what you want, or visualizing what you want, writing down, almost having like a business plan for your relationship, and
Right.
and saying this is the type of person that I want to work with. This is the type of relationship that I want to have. It sounds like that's what you were doing in a variety of ways.
Yeah, totally. I mean, if you talk to a lot of people, and I'm sure you find out people tend to repeat the mistakes they make in life, or because they haven't taken time to step out and say, why am I on this pattern? Why do I keep attracting the same guy or the same girl? Or, why do I keep falling into this, I always end up in the same place. And it's because you haven't put the intent to do something different, and, quite often, I look at sometimes my friends or you watch people nearby and they tend to go out with the same type of person. They tend to form the same relationships. They tend to hang around the same people all the time. And that's a human tendency. It's a protective sort of tendency we have, which is to stay in our comfort zone, right? Now that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you want to grow or you want to get to the next level and you want to change aspects of your life, you need to get out of that comfort zone. And sometimes it could be challenging your values, challenging, you know, am I happy in my relationships? What's missing? Can I work that out with my partner? Am I comfortable even talking about it? I know a lot of guys that are comfortable talking about this sort of stuff. And a lot of women assume guys know this stuff, but they don't. And, I really, yeah, I know you're going to ask me this question a little later on, like how I met my wife, but a few years ago, I put an intent out on my vision board and I put what would be ideal as a partner, someone that I would love to attract one day. And I just, it was a pipe dream, right? But I put it out there and I did not know how or when that was going to happen. And it happened a very short time ago and it was magical, but we'll get into that.
Yes. But the thing I think what I hear you also saying is, or the question I have is, to create a vision board, you actually have to have some awareness
Right.
around what you want. You just can't create the vision. You actually have to have some awareness of what is working. And I think when you're looking at those patterns in life, you have to take a step back and say, okay, where are the patterns? You actually have to look for the patterns before you can actually see the patterns.
That's right.
And I'm kind of laughing because I a friend of mine is she's big into astrology and different things,
Right.
and I'm not so much. And she said, oh well, we were talking about good signs and bad signs for me, and I went back and looked at my life. It turns out that my wife and the girl I dated before her had the exact same birthday, and then two
Right.
other people had the exact same birthday, all of which were on the wrong signs as mine. Or, the opposite. But it was interesting because I just didn't have that awareness. I don't even know if
Mm.
all that, I'm not astrologer, so I'm not going to say that works as well, but it's having awareness around things, I think
Yeah.
and being willing to look. Like, I don't think I was actually willing to look at those things.
I think you're right. What you said is perfect. I mean, again, we can't change who we are until we know we need to change. It's like talking to someone with a bad habit. unless they realize they've got that habit and they want to change it, it's just part of their life. You know, that's why it's really hard for people to quit smoking or quit drinking or quit gambling or, uh, because unless they really, really, really want to, and they take the steps to make it happen, it's hard, you know, and a lot of us have grown up with people around us that have some of those things. And it's same thing with relationships, same thing with jobs, you know, and careers. I see people constantly saying to me, you know, because I talk to a lot of people about careers, right? This is what I do: careers, jobs, entrepreneurship. And people are often telling me, Gavin, I hate my job. I've been in this thing for 20 something years. I've been in it for 10 years, 15 years. You know, it's the same thing day in, day out. But I just cannot wait to make a change. I'm like, how long have you been feeling like this? Oh, you know, for the last, I don't know how long, I've lost count. I'm like, what have you done to change it? Have you done anything different? They're like, "Ah, I don't know. I'm waiting for the right time. I'm not sure." And so I guess there's a combination of two things, Joey. One is you got to be aware that change is imminent and you need to make that change. The second thing is, what are you going to do about it? Now, if you don't know what to do, you need to talk to someone who can help you. You know, there are plenty of experts out there who can guide you, that can coach you, that can give you the steps to take to move you from one place to another, right? Maybe start slow. And I really think, like you said, that awareness piece, very, very critical. Once you're aware, it's like, you know, once you know the world is round, you can never go back to saying the world is flat. You just can't, because you know, your paradigm has changed. And so um, you're 100% right with that.
One thing that has been coming up in these conversations is the idea of courage.
Yeah.
Because and this is I think the gap. What I've been, and I didn't really understand this until I've been having these conversations, but I think that's the gap in between the action or the awareness and the action. You have to have the courage to actually take that step.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if you see that as something that's missing in people.
Yeah, I think, yeah, you know, like when you say courage, I always go back to the Wizard of Oz, right? And you got the lion who has it in him, but can't get it out. Or someone, he needs to be around a group of people that can encourage him to get that courage out, if that makes sense. I didn't even,
Absolutely.
I literally just thought of that. But it is very interesting. And sometimes you need to be in the right environment to grow and to blossom. You know, think of it like a flower. Or you know, if you're into gardening or landscaping, you know, you plant something, you got to water it, you got to nourish it, you got to give it sunlight, soil, all of those things for it to grow. And courage is one of those things. We all have it in us. It'll come out when it needs to come out. But you know, if you are lacking the courage, again, I think it could be the environment that you're in. You know, it could be the people that you're around. You know, are people lifting your spirits? Are people encouraging you to do things differently? Do people talk down to you? Do people put you down? Do you feel small where you are? You know, do you feel kind of caged up? You know, are you in a work environment where you're being told what to do and you can't speak up? Are you in a relationship where you feel you have no voice and therefore you can't make that change? So I guess going back to your point, yes, courage is lacking, but it's there. It's not, you know, we all have it. So the good news is we all have courage. So if you're listening to this and you're going, yeah, it's easy for you to say, but I don't think I could do it. You can do it. You just need to find the right people to help you get your voice out, get thinking in that positive minded spirit, and also realize that you're not alone. You know, whatever you're going through, other people are going through as well. So maybe try to kind of find your tribe or find your group of people that you can affiliate with. And I try and do that all the time, Joey, because, you know, I like to talk to people who kind of get where I'm at. And so I can bounce ideas with them and I can learn from them. And even talking to you, I'm learning some stuff, you know, and I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, I think it's so important. It's been showing up for me. Like everything that we do is a team sport. Your business is a team sport. Your relationship is a team sport. Your fitness is a team sport. And the more that you can actually be open to saying, "Hey, I need some help here. Here's some stuff that I can do," and get that, you get that feedback, get that support, the better off you're going to be. And
Yeah.
it's definitely something I'm working on. There's places where I do it really well, but for me, that courage is opening up and saying, "Hey, I need some help here. You know, would you be willing to help me out? Or I'm trying to do this." And so the courage part has been really, really interesting out of talking to people about relationship.
Yeah, totally, 100%. But you know what? Relationships is one of those things. It's everywhere. So there are people who are in relationships with another person. There are people who have to deal with people with like colleagues and people at work. That's a relationship. There are people who have kids. That's a relationship. The people who have parents or friends, community. There are relationships everywhere. So the thing is, you can't think of relationships as one dimensional. It really is all around us. If you're a human being, you have relationships with a lot of people. You just need to open your eyes and be aware of it and then go, am I in healthy relationships with all of these groups of people? Because you might be healthy on this side, but are you healthy on this side? And what's missing? Are you being authentic here, but you're not being authentic here? Maybe you're being someone else here to kind of fit the bill, to keep this image and persona. And I see people falling into that trap quite often, especially when it comes to work, right? They have to dress a certain way. They have to talk a certain way. They have to do as they're told in that environment because, that's what pays the bills. But outside of that, there's someone completely different. And I guess at the end of the day, Joey, listeners just need to find, what is their true purpose? What are they, what is their message to the world? And can they resonate that with everyone around them? And if they're finding one area is kind of holding them back, they got to question it and go, look, I've ended up here for whatever reason, but is this where I want to stay for the next 5 years, 10 years? If the answer is no, you've got to find a way out or transition out. And I help people do that with business, but really, as you're saying, this is everywhere. So you can take that same message to every part of your life.
Absolutely. So tell us about it. You at some point, you're like, I want to have a great relationship. You were in that space of like, I want to have a change. I don't want to have this continue for 5-10 years. I want something different. Walk us through where you were before that, what you did in the transition, and then the end result.
Look, the story pre-meeting my wife isn't that exciting. I had a handful of relationships. They were okay, but I guess you kind of know this feeling where it's like, I'm waiting for that special person. And until I sat down and worked out what was it I was looking for, like what would be some of those characteristic traits, what would be, those values that we could share in common, and really start to think about it. I guess I was just meeting people as you normally would. You get introduced, you do all the normal things, but I wasn't putting it out there. And I'm a big believer of putting things out there because don't keep secrets, guys. Don't keep things in here or in here, because if you do that, no one else knows about it. No one can help you. The universe can't provide because you haven't told it what you want. And so I was doing vision boards for my business, for, how much I want to learn and where I want to travel and all these things I had up there, but I never had anything on relationships. I never even thought about it. Can you believe that? Right. And then I came across a book by a guy called Dr. John Demartini. And it was something, I think it was called The Values Factor or something like that. And then I met the guy, and he's on The Secret, and he's a fantastic guy. He's from the US, travels all around the world. And he talked about relationships and values and all of that. And for some reason that stuck with me. Then I went on to learn from other people about relationships and love. And the love word, again, didn't really resonate very strongly with me because one, I'm I don't know, a guy that just doesn't say it enough or doesn't really resonate with it enough. But until I embraced it from learning from some of these experts, I started to see that if I didn't love what I was doing or who I was trying to attract, I was always going to fall into the same patterns. And so I put on my vision board for the very first time, an image of, not the exact image because I didn't know what she was going to look like, but, roughly what I thought this dream girl would look like. And, happy pictures of us walking along the beach and doing all these fun things. And every time I looked at it, it made me happy. And then I went away for 6 months with my business, and I traveled around Asia, and, I went to all these countries, and I was never thinking of meeting anyone, right? It didn't occur to me. I was single at the time. And on the 6th month, so this is right at the end of my journey, I was in Singapore, and just randomly, I was there for a wedding, for a friend's wedding. And I was randomly walking one day, bumped into this group of people that were having a lot of fun. The energy, the vibe was really great. And they were on some sort of an excursion, some party. And one of the guys invited me to join, a very random thing. And I normally would never do something like this because I didn't know any of them. And I joined in, and 2 hours later, within that group was my future wife, my current wife, I should say. And we kind of started talking. She's from Australia. She's from South Australia. That's why I live here now. I moved. And we just had so much in common. It was like, Joey, I'm sure you've maybe gone through this. You know, when you meet someone and you go, "Where have you been all my life?" and or it's like we felt we knew each other for many years within the first 5 minutes. Instant connection. Now, she told me later on that she was manifesting meeting someone like me. And when I told her about what I did with my vision board and my thoughts and all, she couldn't believe it. And I truly believe we attracted each other. And so, I tell people this story, and some people are like, "Wow, that's amazing." I really think it's amazing because it changed my whole life, and otherwise I might be, that single guy, or maybe not a very happy relationship and living somewhere else, kind of living an average life, but I'm not. I'm really on top of the world with, at least with my relationship with my wife, and that's fantastic.
Oh, huge props. That's such a great story. I mean, it's interesting, that idea of you had a sense that you knew her already. And
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, I've never had this thought before, but I'm wondering, in athletics, they talk about visualizing a particular move. I'm visualizing hitting a baseball, or
Right.
whatever sport, softball, or soccer.
Yep.
You visualize it. Or ski racing, you do it a million times in your head so that you can, when the time comes, you're more, your brain and your body are more ready to do whatever it is that you're going to do. And I'm wondering, by you visualizing this person and those walks and that happiness and that joy and that fulfillment, all those things,
Yeah.
I'm wondering if you were visualizing that activity. So when you went to go do it, it was as if you had been doing it far longer than you
Yeah.
actually had.
It's so true. Now, part of my visualizing kind of manifested in dreams that I had. I, I would, I guess, it's funny to say this, but I look at my vision board every day. It's on my desktop. I have an electronic version, right there on my desktop. And so I look at it at least 100 times a day. And when you see something that often, I guess it's ingrained in you. So, I'd go to sleep at night. I'd be thinking of the stuff that I'm seeing and looking at, and so I'm not just visualizing it. I'm kind of believing it in my, even when I've closed my eyes. And so I'd wake up, the next morning or the next day, and I feel refreshed. I feel kind of, energized. And even if I hadn't met her at that point, I'm kind of like, this is coming. This is coming at some point. I know it's going to happen because I'm one of those people. I don't believe in coincidence. I kind of believe things happen for a specific reason, and they happen to people because they put it out there. And yes, there's an element of luck, but I also believe you create your luck. So it's, they have this funny saying, sometimes people who win the lottery, win it because they enter that many more times. And even though you might have 1 in a million chance of winning, the more times you enter, the more chances you have of winning, right? And so I guess if you put it out there more often, you're more likely to attract what you want. And I would definitely say, with business, with relationships, certainly with love, you can attract what you want. You can change your life in that aspect.
You also talked about values, and I'm curious how your values show up in your vision board, because it's oftentimes we put the beautiful woman, the super hot guy, but I think it's the values that end up being the deeper connection. And how do those get expressed on your vision board?
Yeah. So look, on my vision board, on one entire side, I've got, family as a big value for me. I always assume people value family. You would think that, right? But not always, not always. Some people say that, but they're not close with their family. They don't talk to their parents anymore. They don't talk to their siblings anymore. Like, whereas I'm very, very close with my family. I mean, to the point where we almost talk every day. You're right. And and I'm like, well, I would love someone to just get that from me, just get it and not think it's weird. And so I put that on there. I put some of those value statements and all that on my vision board. You know, I love animals. She loves animals too. Not everyone does. I love travel. She likes travel. Some people just love being where they're at. And just so a lot of those things I kind of visualize. I kind of put down. Now I'm not saying everything you put down is going to be perfect, because you might find you attract someone and they've got 8 out of 10 of what you want. But you got to be willing to compromise a little bit, and if you get mostly everything or it's a pretty good outcome, then you've got to feel happy with yourself. And what are you willing to change and compromise as well? So, you don't necessarily go, I want perfection and I want, the 11 out of 10 super hot model with all of these things. And, I want the job that's going to pay me like zillions of dollars and I don't have to work. I mean, guys, that's not reality, right? You've got to be realistic as well. Because unless you've got something to offer at that level, you will only ever attract where you're at. So one of the things I would recommend is, if you don't feel you're worthy to attract something at this level, you need to raise your game to that level and you will attract it. Now, raising your game doesn't mean, you're a completely different person, but it might be, if you want to attract someone with good family values, you got to demonstrate that you have good family values. If you want to attract someone who's loving and caring and supportive, are you loving and caring and supportive of the people around you? Not just in your family, but at work, with your community, with your teammates when you play sport, with your neighbor. How often do you say hi to your neighbor? Things like that. So I think the more you start practicing the stuff that you want to attract, you will attract it that way. Does that make sense?
100%. I call that building up your purpose muscles. Once you
Yeah.
have the awareness of who you are, then what there's to do is look at, okay, where am I being that and where am I not? And having the
Right.
courage to look in both sides and say, okay, what do I need to do to be more? I want someone who's physically fit. What do I need to do to get to the gym? What do
Right.
I need to do for that? Am I say I'm about being authentic, but am I
Mm.
really being authentic? And having those conversations. I think it's 100%. And I think that middle stage of building up your confidence is the stage that often gets missed. We're like, okay, this is who I am, and now I want to get, I know I'm positive. Now I want the super hot person, but you gotta have that middle ground.
Yeah, definitely. You got to have that middle ground. And, I think, again, it's looking at the people around you, like who is helping you on this journey. If you are trying to change and you're trying to improve and you're trying to maybe quit some bad habits, or you're trying to get some new habits, you're learning some new skills, whatever it might be, find a group of people that can support you on that journey and can help you get there. And you'll find just by being in that environment that those people already get you. They may go, hey man, I like this Joey character. He's really, he's making some good strides. He's doing this. I've got this friend. I want to introduce him to that because I think he's ready. Or I think they'd make a great couple. Or, maybe there's a job opportunity and they may go, hey, Joey, I've got this person, they're looking at hiring and whatever. And you'll find your immediate circle will start helping you get to where you want to get to, because one, you've attracted them. You're being honest with yourself and with them. And, it's a team game, like you said, it's a team sport. Life is a team sport. If you try and do it all on your own, it's pretty tough. If you try to do business on your own, pretty tough. You need a team. Sometimes a team have to be more talented than you, right? But you got to still attract that team. And so even with a relationship or attracting that perfect partner, you've got to kind of be on the same level playing field as them, because otherwise they're going to move away. They're going to, they'll probably realize you're not who you say you are, and there's a lot of that going around as well, where there's an inauthenticity. There's people on dating apps these days who pretend to be someone they're not. It doesn't last, guys. You might attract that person for one day or one night, but that's it. It's not going to last long term.
That's exhausting. You can't, absolutely. Well, we could talk about this for a long time. I love what you're saying in the comparison between business and life and romance, of really having to look at it. I break it down to, I think we're very similar to three things. You got to get awareness of who you are and what you want to create. Then you have to you have to do the work to build up your confidence and your courage and live that life. And then you attract and you find that person who shares your vision.
Yeah, totally, totally. I think it's a good recipe. 3 easy steps. Just follow that in any area of your life. I think you'll be much more successful than if you didn't.
Absolutely. So I like to end with a few questions to kind of leave people thinking. Uh, Favorite book, story, movie, something that inspired romance for you recently.
Okay, everyone I'm sure has heard this one, The Notebook, um, with Ryan Gosling. Yeah, I love that. I love that movie. I heard about it for a long, long time. Never watched it because I thought, it's a girly movie. It's a sappy movie. I'm not going to watch it. I watched it. It blew me away. I mean, I cried, right? And my wife and I, we love that movie. We've seen it a couple of times, and we always take something away from it all the time. And the one thing I took away from that is they were destined to be together, and life threw a lot of challenges, and they always found their way back. And when they did, eventually, even as they got older in life, they stuck with each other. And I guess it's just a beautiful life journey of the ups and downs. But their love was so strong, their connection was so strong, nothing could tear them apart. And even in death, I believe they both passed away at the same time. So amazing, just amazing love story.
Yeah, it's a classic for sure. And I
Yeah,
yeah, I love hearing how people take different things from that, from really any romance story, but how you take something different from it.
yeah.
And favorite date or something that you've done with your wife that you think other people might want to give a try?
Well, honestly, like some of our best dates have been um, cooking at home and doing something fun together. Now, if that's not your thing, I would say if you're planning the date for someone, do something that they're going to enjoy. Because quite often it's it's tough to find, well, what am I going to do? Do I go to a movie, go to dinner, do all that kind of stuff? Yeah, you can, but throw in that element that the person you're taking out is going to enjoy or really value. And if it's their favorite restaurant, if it's the special type of food, maybe it's an activity afterwards. Or so for me, I've always like, you know, um, we love going out. We love eating out, and I know my wife's favorite food, and I'll book it at our favorite place ahead of time. I won't tell her, or even just I'll arrange some flowers or something as a surprise. When we get home, and things like that. I mean, it's a bit corny, but it's the little things. It doesn't have to be elaborate like a helicopter ride, or it doesn't need to be super expensive. It just needs to be something from the heart, something that's real, and spending quality time. So if you can put that into your date somehow, it'll be an awesome date.
Yeah. It's awareness. So we're coming back to awareness, is it having the awareness of where like your wife's favorite meal or where she likes to go, and having the awareness of where someone might like to do or an activity they might like to do. I think that's
Yeah,
huge. Just thinking ahead of time. I think that's really, it's something that I
correct.
probably didn't do as well as I could have in my relationship.
Same here. Guilty of it.
Absolutely. Uh, Before we get to the last question, how can people actually? I want to be clear. Tell us a little bit about the exact type of person that you work with and what you do for them, and then how can they get in touch with you?
So thanks for that. So my business is called Break Free from Corporate. And I really talk to people who are stuck in their jobs, their 9 to 5s or their corporate jobs, or, where you're in an environment that you're not happy with. You're kind of stuck. You've been there for a while. You don't know how to get out. You want to get out. You want to do something else. You have a passion or maybe a hobby or something that you would much rather do if it could still pay the bills, right? But you're not quite kind of sure how to make that transition. You don't want to quit your job. You're worried about that. I get all of that because I've been there. So what I do these days is I help people formulate a plan, a strategy, and we walk through it and we work out how to get from A to B. So, that way you can transition to something that you love doing, that you're passionate about, without risking your income, without putting your house on the line, without your family breaking up, without doing scary stuff. But you do something on the side, you build it up, get it to a point where maybe you can scale it and then you can transition. And we show you how to do that by working smarter, not harder, how to use technology, how to use systems, how to work with other people, how to build good relationships and partner with people, and just grow as a human being. And then do stuff that you are passionate about. So, and at the end of the day, Joey, it's aligning with those values. You talked about values. We spend a lot of time teaching people and showing people how to bring out those values in what you do. And anyone who's open to having that discussion, we're happy to talk to anyone. Doesn't matter where you are in the world. We talk to a lot of people in the US. But the best place to reach us is either my website, breakfreefromcorporate.com, or just connect with me on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the best place for people to connect with me because I talk to a lot of professionals, and it seems to be the best platform, but you can reach me on the others like Facebook, Instagram, but LinkedIn is probably a good place to say, hey, Gavin, how you doing? Gavin Sequeira, look me up, or Break Free from Corporate. They're probably the two best places.
Perfect. And we'll make sure we have all those links in the show notes. Well, I want to thank you for doing this. This was really great. I really love how it's, you're talking a little bit on the woo-woo side, but you're just very, very precise. You're like, I did this and it worked. And so I'm going to keep doing it over and over again. And so I really want to applaud you. So this is what I'm going to take away from this call, is that I need to work on my vision board. I want to get it on my computer. I love that idea of having that. And I think that's a really powerful, simple tool that you can do. You could pull out magazines and cut them out while you're watching TV or anything.
100%. You know what? We teach kids to do this, right? We say, what do you want to be when you grow up? Cut a little picture of the perfect, if you want to be an astronaut or an engineer or a doctor, and kids love doing this stuff. They put little boards together and they say, hey, mommy, daddy, look what I did. Why don't we do this, Joey, as an adult? I mean, why don't we use that concept of manifesting and creating? Because, we might be bigger human beings, but we're still the same. We still want to attract happiness in our life. And, it seems that the older we get, sometimes the unhappier we get in life. And it shouldn't be that way. We work so hard. We should be happier towards the end of our life, have little to no regrets, have more fun with our family, our friends, build your life to a point where, you can leave this planet and go, you know what? I had a good life. I had a great life. I love my life, and kind of work towards that. So
Absolutely.
I think you're doing a great job. I love this podcast. It's really good that you're talking about this topic.
Thank you very much. And we always encourage people to think about it. And I'm curious what you're going to be taking away from from our conversation.
Yeah, look, I love the fact, one, that we've connected. So, I'm happy to have made another great connection. And the thing I take away from this is knowing that there are people like you out there that are also talking about this. So I don't feel weird. I don't feel alone. When I'm talking to people about, hey, you need to love what you're doing. You need to find your passion, your values. Sometimes when I talk to corporate people and, people that have not done any personal development or any kind of spiritual awareness, they think I'm crazy. I'm talking about vision boards. They're like, man, I just want to do this. But they haven't drawn the connection. They haven't got the steps and they haven't got the awareness. And I need to break that out of them. So I need to go into some of this woo-woo stuff and whatever. And I tell them, hey, I've walked on fire. I've walked on broken glass. I've done Tony Robbins programs. And they're like, you're crazy, man. But I'm like, this helped me get to where I am today. It helped break me out of that mold. And so I love what you're doing, and I keep it up.
Yeah, boy, I just want to double down on that, is in having the conversations that scare you to feel weird. Like, this is a weird conversation. Say, hey, what does love mean to you? Not many people have that conversation, but I have to say it is changing my life. I can feel it I am growing in this conversation, just like you can hear yourself talking about how you're growing by exploring this and having that awareness and doing that work. So I was actually thinking the same thing. I'm like, hey, this is a guy, I'm on the relationship side, he's more on the business side. We might be able to connect because we have a similar just approach to saying, hey, you can, have the conversations like when you said, like, family. If not everyone is important to family, so I need to talk about what family means to each of us. And having those conversations, I think, is so important.
No, totally. And, I mentioned very early on, I love animals and so does my wife. And we've got a cat and a dog. And, we're always meeting with people that have animals. You look at animals and they have unconditional love for the people that they're with or others. And we can learn a lot sometimes just even being around pets or animals. And sometimes, it's that little quality and you take that away from them and you go, how can I bring that into my life? How can I be less judgmental, less sarcastic, less, demeaning of others? Or if someone's not quite at where we're at, how do I lift them up rather than putting them down? All of those things, the more we practice that, I think we will be giving out love and you will definitely attract it as well. People will go, I love being around Joey because I just feel good when I'm with him. He never, I feel energized. I like his energy. He's a positive guy. He always has a smile on his face. And don't we all want to be around people like that? I know I do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we could talk about this forever. I just want to say thank you for taking the time. I know it must be late there or early. I'm not even sure. But I really appreciate the work that you're doing and the energy that you bring into props. We have to do a call at some point with your wife to get her side of the story about this guy who just showed up and she came into my party and all of a sudden we got married out of that.
Yeah. It might be very different, right?
Exactly. But I want to thank you for this. And any last words before we wrap up?
No, man, I think we talked about everything. I'm really happy with what you've shared today, or at least got me to share and just our conversation. And I'll be following you and to any of your listeners, if you guys want to get in touch and just have a chat, like I said, reach out. I'm personally very happy to talk to you. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And to everyone, remember, love takes courage. It takes courage to ask what you want. It takes courage to stand up for what you want, to say no to when you're not getting what you want. So please, if you need any help, definitely reach out to here. We'll support you just so that you can have the love that you want to have. I'm Joey Chandler. You have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you next time on The Love Launch. Bye.